Kevin, let's jump right to Sunday afternoon. We're all becoming amateur meteorologists right now, and I know there's some misinformation out there on social media. So we're learning about lake effect snow and all of this. Right now, what does the forecast say for 1 o'clock Eastern Sunday afternoon in Buffalo? How much snow should they and should we be expecting to see?
So here's what we know that we will see in Buffalo, and that's the winds, right? We're going to see winds right around 20 miles per hour sustained. We're going to see wind gusts right around 40. That part of the forecast is a lock, and that part of the forecast is the most impactful part as well, right? Those winds are the primary driver to contributing to totals dropping. It makes it hard to throw the ball. It makes it hard to kick field goals. That wind is a lock. I feel good about that portion of the forecast. The question mark here is what kind of snow could we see? Because what happens is you get these lake effect bands, and it's going to be a really thin band of really heavy snow. And some areas are going to get absolutely smashed with inches and inches of snow. And other locations that are just outside that band might just get off with some light snow or some flurries. It's going to snow in game. It's just too early to let you know how much snow. But it's going to be cold, it's going to be windy, and there's going to be snow. And when you combine those things, no matter how much snow you're talking about, this is weather that's going to matter. And the total's been dropping, and I wouldn't be shocked to see the total come down even a little more. And even at that point, I don't hate the under. And especially as you start thinking about some of those prop bets on passing yards and over on rushing attempts and things like that.
Kevin, when you look at the actual number for the miles an hour for these winds, just for future reference and as we look forward into the playoffs, what's kind of the start point of, all right, in terms of this and with miles an hour, gusts up to and sustained winds, this is the speed at which it'll start to affect totals?
In general, I'm looking for wind gusts of about 30 miles per hour or more. And usually that comes with sustained winds 15 to 20. And in this case, we're going to be up above that, right? We're going to get 40 mile per hour winds. It's not always noticeable on every single play, right? This isn't what a couple of years ago in New England where they didn't even attempt to run.
Yeah.
It was in Buffalo, actually. I think it was New England and Buffalo. They didn't even attempt to throw it, right? It's not that level of wind, but it's enough where those deeper throws are tough to connect on. Those long field goals are not going to be easy in these kinds of conditions. And you're pretty quickly chipping away points when you take away long field goals and deep throws.
Yeah, it's interesting right now as we're talking to Kevin Roth as we take a look at what's going on, weather-wise. Just looking at those rush attempt props, they're all juiced to the over. Josh Allen, 8.5, juiced to the over. Mason Rudolph, 1.5, minus $1.90 to the over. James Cook, over 15.5. Final thought on this before we get to the frigid temperatures, maybe one of the coldest games in history. As it looks right now, when do we think the snow starts? Because, look, if the snow comes, and we were talking about this game last year, Kevin, if you recall, it was a Saturday night game in December. Everyone was freaking out about the snow, and I think the snow came early or came late, one or the other. It never really affected the game. So is there a chance the snow kind of hammers Buffalo Saturday and they clear it out by Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, that's still a legitimate option, and that's why I'm always hesitant, and you should be as well, when you see these specific totals talking about feet of snow. Look, winds are consistent across an entire area. The whole greater Buffalo area is going to see the same wind. That snow is going to be one neighborhood gets 1.5 feet, and another neighborhood gets an inch. It's a much narrower band, and so trying to pinpoint that this far out is honestly a fool's errand. Yes, I think it's going to snow some. I don't know how much at this point, and that's why I'm not placing bets based on snow. I'm placing it based on that wind that I know is going to happen, and I know it's going to be impactful.
The last point on the precipitation, could it get bad enough to affect visuals, like what you can see?
Absolutely, yeah. If they get into one of those heavier bands where it's coming down at 2 inches per hour and blowing snow with 40 mile per hour winds, it could be not quite whiteout, but pretty close to it conditions.
All right, Kevin, let's get to tomorrow night, Saturday night in Kansas City. It is expected to be very, very chilly, and we've seen ticket prices drop a little bit because I don't know if folks in Kansas City are ready to brave the elements there. Before we get to wind gusts and that, how cold with that wind chill are we talking tomorrow night in Kansas City?
Yeah, every time I look at forecast models, they're coming in just a little bit colder, a little bit colder. And that is not a good trend for folks going to watch that game. I think at kickoff, it's probably going to be below 0. And those numbers that you've got there look fairly accurate to me. Actual temperature, a couple of degrees below 0. Feels like temperature at that point with a 15-mile-per-hour wind would be right around 25 below 0. And as a general rule, I'm the guy who says, look, temperature is not strongly correlated to scoring. But on the extremes, it is. When you're talking about extreme cold, it does tie into scoring. And this is certainly a case of extreme cold here.
Yeah, so this is one where I actually wanted to, as Tim put it, like zag when everybody is zigging and go, you know what, if the wind's not going to be that strong, I think that this is a game that could still go over the total. Would you push back on that then?
I wouldn't. I don't have any suggestions on bets in this one. I haven't all week because I don't believe that the cold is as strong a driver in scoring as the wind is. So from the moment it opened, I was on the under there in Buffalo because of that wind. But here, I've seen the total drop. I'm happy with where it's at. I don't really have a lean either way.
So when it comes to win for tomorrow night, I mean, it's not going to be fun. And I heard a former NFL player
fun for me
talking about it. Well, we're getting those warm drinks, so we're figuring out what we would drink.
Irish coffees.
Yeah, if we would be there. Yeah, we're piling them in. Bring them on in. But he said the worst part was it wasn't playing; it was the being on the sidelines, right, and then ramping it back up. But what are we looking like wins tomorrow? Is wind going to be a factor tomorrow night in Kansas City?
It's just enough just to mention and to think about, but it's not enough to impact most plays. You're talking sustained winds of about 15 miles per hour. We should see wind gusts of 25. That's got my attention, but it's not to the point where I think it has a huge impact. I'm more just worried about the cold. It cuts down on how far you can kick field goals because that cold air is dense. The football gets rock hard even as much as they try to keep it warm. Those are my concerns. They're more minor concerns as opposed to super strong wind in Buffalo, which is just an obvious you can't throw it deep kind of concern.
How far out do these weather projections go? Like if Buffalo moves on, is this going to be a problem like next week?
Oh, yeah. I haven't looked at the forecast for next week, but as soon as that game is over, and I could do it now, I could let you know what the general thought would be. Again, wind and temperature, fairly accurate, pretty consistent. Rain or snow has to hold out until a couple days before to really pinpoint it. And one game that's been going kind of underlooked here is that we also still have that Bucs game on Monday night. And I feel like nobody's been asking me about that one.
Yeah, well, let's get to it. We got a minute left. I was going to get that to you. Jalen Hurts is dealing with a hurt finger. Is it going to be a pretty saturated night there in Tampa on Monday?
It looks it, yeah. And I've been talking about, the fickle nature of the rain, but every forecast model's got a pretty good shot of some showers throughout this. And if you start bringing in consistent rain, that impacts play, right? It's going to change the game plan a little bit, a few more runs. It makes the passing game a little less crisp. They'll still do all the things that they want to do. They just won't do it quite as efficiently. And so that's another spot where I don't dislike the under. We've got 3 outdoor games, and all 3 of them have bad weather, and I love it.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.